So again, there are 8 cold hells being described, and the intensity of suffering in each cold hell is greater than the other cold hells.
Never and Johnson goes on that Samalo, rank sangue, McGee is similar tene, the region no shadney, don't meet younger, Mato, once Pagella, Majotam, the Banangishan, the John Khan, the Lishan, the Johnson, the Tenega, Yamaris.
So in Buddhist literatures, we do talk about, the hell environments, cold and hot hells, for example, as well as the hell, agents or the guardians. And so they do horrible things to the hell beings. But these are all what we consider as more experience at a mental level. These are the creations of one's distorted minds and deluded perceptions. These are not as if there are real places called hells, and there are real hell guardians, as if like really people there are torturing you. But these are all the results of one's own distorted and deluded perceptions and negative karmas.
That me give less happy. A tea and it reflection and do that tea and it not in the shiny when it went by that dunge nursing but the Nangita.
So as a result of one's really tremendous negative karmas and delusions, and beings in the hot and cold hells, you see, as Geshe used the word, reflections of as if like your negative karmas and delusions reflected in your sort of psychological experiences, and then you really, it becomes very real to the beings who are experiencing these sufferings, although everything is, the descriptions of the environments and the beings within are not real as in a real people and being, but it's more in the sense of a psychological realism. But it really appears very real to the beings who experience such suffering.
Kali covered do huge and the moon pay, mix it to shows and mix it to the pay, but Ningo numbers and of the day, Yungu.
And I think you might get a sense of what we're talking about, if you have experienced both good and bad dreams in your life. Just think about all the, kind of a fairy tale dreams you have. Everything is wonderful, and you are just like giggling and jumping and happy and excited and, all of that. And then think about the nightmares you had, where you feel like you are tortured to death or something, and you just find yourself crying, and actually next morning you see that your pillows are wet, So the things which you experience in the dreams, good and bad, appear very real to you. So this is the same thing we are talking about, the experience of hell beings. So when we talk about even though it has a very psychological level more so, that there are tremendous suffering being experienced by the hell beings, but we have certain experiences in the area, as I just mentioned, like the nightmare and so on, which seems very real, although not real in the sense of you can touch it. It's tangibly real, but it is psychologically, personally, and emotionally very real and traumatizing.
The Jazzy can be like any Shinju Toxic side you switches. And it's a bad to Zonke, so going on Margin and Rang Sing McGivey, similar thing, the similar thing. Big Senation, but then to what St. John de Kanan.
Great Indian Bodhisattva Mahasattva Shantideva, in his Guide to Bodhisattva's Way of Life called Chunju, Bodhisattva avatar, and he raises these questions, as we describe about how the beings in the hot house are fried and cooked and on the burning iron surface. So then he raises the question, who has created the burning iron surface, for these hell beings? He said, no one but their own karmas. And and this is what exactly he said, as Buddha said it, because of the negativities of the beings, they experience such sufferings very personally and psychologically and emotionally as a result of their karmas. It's not like somebody is manufacturing the burning iron surface, to cook these hell beings. These are all reflections and the outcomes of their negative karmas. So there are, hot and cold hells, 8 in each categories, and then there are surrounding hells. So let's, just move on to the hungry ghost world. And so the predators, the yidak in Tibetan, their suffering is due to due to starvation, because of hunger and thirst.
That thing to do any big Yidala, that take on good doing younger to that Diba McGee, that Diba McGee lay chambers on your sugars and drinks Yidal sugars.
So again, if one creates and accumulates the strongest negative karma, then that could precipitate one's rebirth in hells. If one's negativity is of what we call moderate intensity, so to speak, then that could precipitate one's rebirth in the hungry ghost world, where there is intense suffering of hunger and thirst.
So that many losing in a million bunchaman pole pay shooting by till sometimes they come to kill some, but that's I am ever pay topi don't say gundo or it up doing young that they go at you.
So by our human, our calculations, hungry ghosts, they have to remain in their state for billions of human years without even finding a drop of water or a morsel of food.
Kahigani say that they come to the Pajang Roman tomb in the tin to this and the Sam have a change of the data and it gives room to the number shiny Sam have a tomb of Calgaris.
For many predators, from long distance, they have this illusionary perception that there are, just yummies, out there. They could just go and enjoy. So, but as they go to the site where they thought the yummies are there, but what they really find is all destructive weapons and horrible things that could torture them. And many Americans are predators of the hungry ghosts. They even, because of their delusions and karmas, couldn't see anything that is eatable or drinkable. Even if they could be around, lying around them, just by the of their karma, they couldn't see any of those things.
Ma sama to bashe kele pe leche wan kele pe diba phone nebe diba chen anti ma hi bashe ma to bhe ta pen ma nan mandro bashe ne atende ke ta dung yong go yaris.
And many, they could see food and maybe they try to get a little bit of them, and as they put it in their mouth, nothing goes through their, tiny neck. Their necks are all like constricted by the due to the negative karma, and so nothing can be swallowed in, and so that's the kind of intense suffering they go through.
Pe Hidagata report devotion, link to move with Dunga, Kangali have a ship.
And then there are the sufferings of that animals go through. And by animals, we mean that's the kind of animals. And so animals are generally characterized by the state of mind where they really couldn't decide. Generally speaking, what is good and what is bad, and so they don't have the knowledge, discriminative knowledge to, find out what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong, and make decisions for themselves.
losing that kibushi jinikil sayakata to.
And then, of course, they are constantly under the fear of being, eaten up by the larger and the bigger and more powerful ones. And this, for example, we already know about. Look at the fish, the world of fish, how the big fish eat little fish, and so little fish have to always get scared, that they can be eaten by the big ones, So that's the kind of suffering in the animal world.
That Tingaranzo te Gozosia that me telling you your rest.
The animals we see in the human world, and many of whom we love and we domesticate them as our pets, these are called scattered animals. They are really not in the animal world, but they're in the human world. The real animals are in the animal world, and most of them are underneath the oceans.
So that they end up and preserve him with a that children the Tenya Chungu saying is over the says Asatagashi, the desert Nate has Zubola Keshe. And then say, you say, member, Takarasa, Tuda, Naba could do him, Yoni, they got at the rest.
And it's not just that the small animals can get eaten up by the big ones, but sometimes the big ones get eaten by the small ones. And there are cases where some animals are so huge and almost like immovable, and they couldn't do anything, but all these little ones are just poking and, eating you up from all the different parts of your body, and you couldn't do anything. Just sit there and get eaten by them.
So we really
need to understand all these different types of the beings, and what kind of sufferings beings go through in samsara. So if we kind of we don't talk about the suffering of samsara and block out that whole information and knowledge. And we always talk about the good side of samsara, if relatively speaking. And then once we get hit by the suffering, then we go nuts with it because we don't know how to handle it. We never expect, don't know anything about that side of the story, and so we get badly hit by suffering, and we lose complete control over our situation.
Sasha and the Karinata, Yanka Chimba Kivision, and Yanka Yabting, Mane, Mamma Hakobina, Kotel Kangoshi Jungurmas. That is any son of Matamba Shin, and Yanka Yabata, Hamagobashi, Malabashit Shabina, not top to the day, not doing you and take a couple of each other.
I think it is really, generally speaking, wise to talk about the risk and dangers of samsara, so that if there any possible way we can avoid those risks and danger and get out of those dangerous situations, then we can do with our knowledge and understanding. So talking about samsaric problem and suffering is not being very pessimistic and just kind of a doomed version of perspective on life. But as a matter of fact, conventionally speaking, if we have to journey through a very risky and dangerous situation, don't we want people to tell us, or those who know, what are the things we should expect so that we may be able to safely go through the dangerous zone? But if we don't have that knowledge, we don't want to talk about the risk and danger, then we have even bigger problem to go through that area. So just as it's wise to talk about the risk and danger of a journey involved so that we could avoid the risk, or we can counteract the risk and go through safely, in the same way it is very wise and many ways optimistic to talk about suffering of samsara so that we can know how to plan and get out of samsara.